Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing. My name is Ryan McGinlay, at the Ryan McGinlay, and today I'm joined by, it seems as always, by A Haggerty 10, Anthony Haggerty. Tony, how you doing?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I'm still feeling pretty good after the Kyogo announcement. I think we're all still
You
sort of
still up
real.
there somewhere, aye? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much so. Big name, big name. Yeah, but today we're here to talk about all things Celtic again, as we do every day. Today we're going to talk about the wide players, obviously with Jota leaving the club to join Al Ittihad. What was it, under 48 hours ago? We need a replacement. That's that's basically the
Okay.
that's basically the simple terms of it. But before we start, if you just have a wee look at the ticker tape tomorrow, if you want quality journalism, then subscribe to the Celtic Way website below. It's at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. You'll get daily articles from me, from Tony, from Aidan. You'll have analysis pieces from Duco James, Alan Morrison, Stuart Ross, and a whole host of other things. Well, you get big interviews from Tony as well. It's more of a case of who you haven't interviewed yet more than anything else, Tony.
I'm trying, working my way down the Rolodex as you do. But hey, we try and get
That's all.
somebody every week,
That's always the joy of speaking to people that were involved with Celtic. There's so many people that were involved, both people well known and not so well known. So you've always got somebody to talk to. But I think we should just get straight into it. Obviously, Jota left to join Al Ittihad. 25-30 million's the reported fee that Celtic are going to get after taking away Benfica's 30% cut. It will be around about 19 million, I believe.
Give or take.
Give or take 19 million, it's good money either way. It's a great profit considering a player we only had for 2 years permanently for one. Just before we get on to replacements, maybe under 48 hours on, what's your feelings towards Jota? I know obviously he hasn't posted his farewell on Instagram yet. What's your opinions on that?
I don't wish him any ill will, Ryan. I've got to be honest. The guy's moving for mind-boggling sums of money. Yeah, you can argue the toss. I see Alan Brazil's called him a mercenary on TalkSport this morning. You know that whatever way you think of it, Chris Rutten said he's kind of, he's took the coin and challenged his ambition in terms of going over there and wants to play against the best. He'll not play against the best over there. They're trying to sign the best, aren't they? I always say it. As long as players that come from other countries give their all and help Celtic be successful domestically and try and make inroads in Europe, then you can't fault them. I mean, that's life-changing money for Jota. So and yep, you can question the validity of the league and the setup and the quality of the football, but when that's put in front of you and it's real terms, then I defy anybody to knock that back. He was a sublimely talented footballer when he played for Celtic, and we all saw that. And I mentioned the fact the other day that I wrote a piece and I flagged it up, and I said he would go for a record fee. Turns out that was right. So you wish him all the best, and he's young enough to come back, isn't he? Having made his money, because he's still very young. So, and I think the door would always be open for a Jota return, especially if he was still playing the type of football that we got used to seeing over the past couple of years. He said it himself. He came as a lone player from Benfica, fell in love with the club, fell in love with the culture of the club. I just think the sadness is that Celtic didn't have him for as long as he thought they might. Signed a 5-year deal last summer and only saw a year of that. But I think that was to safeguard everybody, safeguarded himself, safeguarded the club. And I think if that is the model moving forward, isn't it? Tie them down on long-term contracts so that when someone does want them, then they have to pay handsomely for the services because they're proven to be an excellent footballer. So I said before, he sometimes blew hot and cold, but he turned up in a lot of big games and scored a lot of big goals for Celtic and gave the Celtic fans some wonderful memories. So he goes with my blessing. And as I say, the shame in it all is just that I think Celtic wanted to hold on to him longer, didn't they?
Yeah, I think as the saying goes, 3 is a magic number. It seems as if 3 years is always the sort of time that you want a player for. You want them to stay for 3 years and then move on to pastures now.
Yeah.
But if Celtic can get 10+ million profit that they got and the results on the park as well, then I have absolutely no problem with him leaving. He leaves with our best wishes. I don't think any of the things that he said or any of the statements that he said were manufactured. I think he genuinely took Celtic to heart. He's just seen the generational wealth that's on the other side of the world at the moment and said, I want some of that. And anybody in their occupation is probably entitled to do the same thing. We're just involved in a game of football that there's fans that are caught in the middle of this, but if it was any other occupation, you'd be applauding him, wouldn't you?
I think he was blindsided by the move from, Al Ittihad. I don't think anybody saw that coming. That's why it's been concluded so quickly. This has been offered. He's went, seriously? Can I have that in writing? There it is in writing. yeah, I'll do that. So, and I think this kind of the quickness and the speediness of it all shows you that once you dangle that kind of figure in front of a player, you don't need agents involved in that kind of stuff. It's like it's head turning money, and as I say, I think the fact that he did give his all, and I'm sure, like what you said, he did love the club because Celtic kind of put him back on that stage, and I've got him that move. So, and I think that's taken him completely by surprise. I think he would be willing to have played for Celtic for another year. They had the Champions League group stages to go again. I think a lot of the guys want to play in that again and show on a bigger stage that they belong in that company. But yeah, I've got no ill will towards him. I think it's an absolutely superb piece of business by Celtic. I think you have to applaud Michael Nicholson and the board for hanging out for that fee that equals Tierney, or indeed smashes Tierney's record. Not seen too many people write that, but from what we know and we learned, that I think it's some 30 million euros, isn't it? Probably with add-ons and stuff like that. So it's an excellent piece of business for Celtic. It proves the model's working. I think you wrote yesterday, and I've said it many times on here, bang that drum. Celtic's a wonderful place for young players to come, apply their trade. 2 or 3 years maximum, but as I say, as long as they come, they give their all and they help Celtic be successful, I'm all for that. And if you can get whacking sums of money at the end for them, because somebody wants to buy them because they are producing the goods, then you cannot argue with that. It's getting them at the right time. We spoke about that last week. We got Jota at the right time. I think both were mutually beneficial for each other. And you wouldn't close the door on Jota coming back, would you? And I think he's that kind of guy that might do what he has to do in the next 2 or 3 years, and then finally think, do you know what? We've got unfinished business in Glasgow. I might go back there. And if the circumstances are right and it's mutually agreeable to all parties, then I think he would be welcomed back.
Yeah, if he stays for the duration of his contract, he'll be 27 by the time he's coming back to Europe. If he chooses to go there, maybe he might go elsewhere. Maybe the money's better somewhere else. But at 27, I would make the example of Axel Witsel. He done the same. The Belgian midfielder. He was at Zenit St. Petersburg, which they would have given good money anyway. A Russian team, they'll be full of money. But he moved to a team. I can't remember exactly what team it was in China that he moved to, but this was when the Chinese Super League was at its highest point, when the wages were incredible. Obviously, they've had a bit of a downturn due to political factors, due to obviously everything that's going on in the world just now as well. But he spent a couple of years playing for the Chinese team that he moved for. Then he moved to Borussia Dortmund. Now, Borussia Dortmund's one of the best fan-supported teams in the world. But he was playing there for fun, basically. He wasn't playing there for the wages. He was sorted. His family and his family's family after that were sorted because of the moves that he had made. Yes, 2 years sacrifice, maybe playing in a lesser league with some superstars in China, but the rest of his career, he's sorted. He can play for who he wants. It still didn't affect his international prospects because he was still playing for Belgium at that point in time. Then he moved to Borussia Dortmund, and I think he's been a mainstay in their midfield ever since. It just shows you that these moves to Saudi Arabia and China in the past, they don't really affect players' international prospects. There's still eyes on them. It's maybe better just for a financial standpoint. But maybe that's what Jota's going for. 27 years old, he'll be coming back. He'll be a better player when he comes back to Europe. He'll be playing with some superstars in Benzema and Kante, and he's amongst others. I would assume that team. I don't think they'll be stopping at Jota. So he'll be 27 coming back, and he'll be a better player for it, and he'll have a lot of money in his pocket. Don't know what you think about that, Tony.
Yeah, so he might well say, do you know what? If money's not an option, I'd like to go back to Glasgow because I enjoyed it so much. Or he might choose to go to England or Spain or somewhere like that. So I think when that situation, he'll probably have the pick of what he wants to do. So listen, that if he comes back, great. If he doesn't, no problem. I loved the 2 years that he was here. Loved the success that he brought to the club. Loved the style and the football that he played under the former manager, and he won 5 out of 6, didn't he? So, he, as I say, he goes with the best wishes, and people can say what they like about him being greedy and mercenary or whatever you want. I don't think you can turn down that kind of money. That's just blown Celtic out of the water, and I think that's what the Saudi Arabian clubs plan on doing, not just to Celtic, but to English Premier League clubs as well, Spanish clubs, German clubs, you name it. They're just going to blow everybody out of the water and try and entice some of the world's football stars to their league. And, so there you go. That's the start of it. And so we wait and see what happens with interest on how it proceeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you're right. This is just the start for these Saudi Arabian teams. I think you're going to be really surprised over the next couple of years what big players do, in fact, go to Saudi Arabia and that part of the world. I mean, it seems as if they're doing the personal terms before the clubs agree a fee. I think they dangle the wages at the players, and then the players are caught in this middle, this sort of purgatory situation where they're like, I can't reject this money. It's generational wealth. The two teams, my current club and my future club, have got to sort this out between them. And I think the deal that Celtic have got is a really, really good deal. A great profit for a guy that Celtic only had for 1 year. I know we had him another year on loan, but he was a permanent player for 1 year. And to make that sort of profit, that shows you that the model is working. And if that means that you sell maybe one of your best players, but you keep Kyogo for another 4 years, I can take that. I don't know about you, but I can certainly take that exchange.
Yeah, exactly. And I said to you the other day, and I'll reiterate this, I don't think Brendan Rodgers is coming in to break up that team. I think 1 or 2 might go, might see another one go at best, but you can't talk about wanting to achieve something in Europe and then start selling and asset stripping, selling all your best players. It's just not going to work. You have to, at some point, keep them together. And I think what another may go, who that is, I don't know at this moment in time. But I don't think he's coming in to smash all that up, because Celtic at the minute have got the nucleus of a decent side, and with another 2 or 3 quality additions, they could compete in Europe at the level that they want to. So I'm not advocating that others go, but I think this is a perfect example of the model, the business model working to everybody's satisfaction. And so, yeah, did I want Jota to stay? Yes. He's gone, accept that, but the money they got in from then, I'm happy with that. I was fed up with the clubs coming and plundering Celtic's assets, and not getting value for money. We are now getting more or less the value for money that we think these players are worth, and getting the fees that are commensurate with their talents and ability. And fair play to Celtic and fair play to the board for hanging out for that kind of money. It's, you want the players, they're on long-term contracts, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Celtic have the respect of these bigger teams or these welfare teams. I think the fees in the fees in the past where they were derisory, to be perfectly honest, not worthy of the players that were going down south. Like, you look at people such as Wanyama and Van Dijk, both went to Southampton for fairly nominal fees, I would say, and they didn't. Yes, they improved down south, but they were doing that up north. It wasn't that big an improvement from Celtic to Southampton for their next move to Liverpool and Spurs, respectively.
There were fairly nominal fees for cash-rich English clubs. Let's put it that way.
Pennies.
Yeah. So it's a drop in the ocean to them. So Celtic have switched that on its head and said, no longer will you do that. I mean, the money Celtic got for Van Dijk was a steal, an absolute steal. And then he went on, and everybody knew that he was a player of the highest class, and he would go on. So it's and I think Celtic have done a brilliant job in terms of the hierarchy to switch that around and say, no, if you're coming for our players there on long-term deals, we're going to make you pay for them, get the best deal possible, and also with sell-on clauses as well. I think the Celtic, the way they've conducted their business with players that have left Celtic and then gone on to further their ends and got money out of that is a superb piece of business. Everybody in an ideal world, you want to keep your best players. You want them to stay and play at Celtic, but you have to be realistic. And people can say, I see Pete McGee in the comment section saying he's not a fan of the business model. How else are Celtic meant to survive and even compete at the levels that they want to if they don't have some kind of business model and structure in place? The days of the 70s where Celtic were for about 7 years, from 67 to about 74, they were arguably the best club in Europe and got to the latter stages. They've gone, football's moved on, it's a business, so you have to cater your model to suit. And if Celtic are every year going to sell one of their prized assets, and they have to get as much as they can for them in order for that cycle in order for the squad to be constantly replenished and for your club to keep evolving and to be as competitive as you can both domestically in Europe. Do I hate seeing Celtic's best players go away? Of course I do, but I'm realistic. I'm also a dreamer, and I dream that one day that it all comes together and Celtic get a team who for 1 year sweeps the boards, both domestically and then can do something in Europe. I dream about that. I hope that's the case, but they're just slanting it. I mean, you look at the Champions League revamp as well. It's being slanted. You'll never get a Cinderella story again in the Champions League. It's the same clubs, and it just so happens it's the richest clubs, isn't it? And if the richest clubs are going to throw their money about and Celtic want to be a big club, then they have to get their slice of that as well. So, and I accept that players and managers at Celtic are entering, as I said before a couple of times, a marriage of convenience, and 2 or 3 years maximum is probably what you're going to see from players that come into the club at a young age and do well, and even managers who come into the club. Brendan Rodgers has promised us 3 years, Ryan. He said it himself, so we wait and see what happens there on that one. But he's been here before, he knows the terrain, and I think one of his big bugbears is that he didn't do particularly well in Europe. I think he wants to redress that, and if he's given the funds that he says he's getting, obviously they've sold one asset, will they sell another? Possibly, but as long as the majority of that is ploughed back into the team and give the manager a fighting chance to make Celtic that club that we all want to see competing abroad.
Yeah, there was a lot of mention in the press conference and the interview the day before of Europe being one of the sort of main focuses for Celtic in these coming times under Brendan Rodgers. It seems as if that's the place where Celtic are really going to focus on improving on, because that's where Celtic will make their money. They'll make their money in player sales, but they'll also make their money in progressing the team in Europe. By getting through games, they'll then accumulate more and more money. And yeah, that should be the focus. I've got to be honest, just put my personal opinion out there. I think that the model works, because look at the trophy haul since we started it. Celtic have won the majority of trophies since they've adapted this system. The proof is in the pudding. It does work. You can make a profit and be successful, and at least domestically, I know Europe, there's been a problem with regards to winning a knockout tie. Still waiting on that happening, by the way. I've not seen it yet. I've not been, in the time that I've been interested. Obviously, I'd heard about the Barcelona result when I was younger, but was it Barcelona we beat in the knockout? That was the last knockout game?
Yeah, UEFA Cup. He
Yeah.
won a two-legged affair, yeah. Beat them
Yeah.
1-0. Alan Thompson scored 0-0 over there.
David Marshall.
Yeah.
Screaming of a game.
game.
Yeah. Apart from that, I've never really seen Celtic do well in Europe in the knockout stages. It's always been either hard luck against an AC Milan, or drubbed by Bodo Glimt, or beaten soundly by Juventus or Valencia. That's where I want to see Celtic move forward. I want to see Celtic be that bogey team. You want Celtic to be the team in the knockouts that teams don't want to come up against because they know they'll be in a game. I want us to be a sort of Shakhtar Donetsk, that when you see their name, you know you're in a game. You know that they're going to be a nightmare to play against. And then with that, then will come a bit of a reputation, and hopefully that reputation is there because you've taken a couple of scalps in Europe.
But it's the catch-22 then, Ryan, isn't it? You dominate domestically there, but then it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. In order to compete at that level, then you're going to maybe have to smash your own parameters, aren't you? 16 million for Reader, potentially. We spoke about that. I'm not saying you have to be reckless. You were talking about bringing in two £8 million players for that kind of money, but if that's what Celtic have to do, or even go above their own record, which was 9 for Odsonne Edouard, but it's striking that fine balance, isn't it? A club like Celtic does have financial parameters, but their ambitions far outweigh their financial parameters, don't they? So they have lofty ambitions, especially in Europe, but you can only do that with a good set of players. And in order to get a good set of players, you have to, at some point, say, okay, we're going to throw a bit of resource at this. When Martin O'Neill came in, he threw a bit of resource at it, didn't he? Chris Sutton for 6 million, John Hartson for 6 million, Lennon for 6 million, that kind of stuff. So there was 3 players totaling 18 million quid. Fantastic footballers, all of them, and made a big difference to that Celtic team. And Celtic were the team that nobody liked because lots of big clubs came. Celtic claimed their scalp, or they came to Parkhead and left with nothing. So at some point you're going to have to say, okay, we now have a decent team, but it could be enhanced by bringing in that sprinkling of stardust, that quality that takes us to that famed next level, that will win you a knockout tie in Europe, that will get you your respect back on that stage. Because I think everybody would admit Celtic's recent European record has been pretty horrendous. 1 or 2 blips along the way, but they've been the exception to the rules. But so now, what do we do? We're in a strong financial position. We're in a strong domestic position. It's Europe that we seem to be targeting. Brendan Rodgers mentioned that. So I'm not saying we go all in and we fritter all the cash. I'm just saying be prudent, but you can also be prudent and earmark something special to take you to that, that will make that difference. Not just a player that's going to win you a treble or continue your domination of the league, a player that's going to take you to the last 16 of the Champions League, or if you drop down, quarter-finals, semi-finals of Europa League, or players, depending on where you split the divvy up of the transfer budget that you have. Those players are out there. Some of them are within Celtic's financial parameters and budget right now. So you trust the scouting department to have identified those players, and that's what we're doing right now. I think we've got a good team in this minute in time, but we can't keep selling the best players and expect to do well. Ange did say, don't get too attached, don't fall in love, because that constantly evolving, that cycle. So if that cycle is every 2 or 3 years, then so be it. But Celtic have to kind of make a conscientious decision and say, we'll sell one prized asset a year, but it can't be wholesale selling of 2 and 3, because what's the point then? It's self-defeating, isn't it? Every time you get a good nucleus of crop of players, every 2 years, you're just going to flog them off because, you bring in the money. I accept that we have to get top dollar for our footballers, and I accept that this summer there might be one other star go, but there will be people coming in because the manager's been promised that. We're not always going to be in this position of financial strength and football strength, certainly domestically. So I think if you're going to roll the dice, it's right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without actually bursting yourself and, making it impossible to come back from. I'm saying be sensible about it.
Yeah, we need to find that balance. Kevin in the comments says we need to find a balance like Ajax do. I think the only problem with the Ajax model is that Not that I accept not winning the league, but they've got PSV and Feyenoord who fight it out for the league as well. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but in the Eredivisie, every 2 or 3 years, it seems as if another team wins the league and Ajax maybe come second or third in their league because it's just part of their rebuild. That just wouldn't wash at Celtic because second is last in our league. This is the problem due to the Goldfish Bowl that is Scottish football. Celtic are expected to win the league every single season. Second is a disaster now. It's even more of a disaster nowadays due to the financial implications that could have down to Europe and down to obviously other teams getting more money by being in Europe.
But okay,
it's a tough one.
I'll ask you, Ryan, this season coming up, Celtic drop into the Europa League. They're going for the title and they're going for the Europa League. What do you want? What would you like to win? Would you sacrifice the league title for a Europa League win? I know it's all hypothetical, but
is both the right answer here?
Both is the right answer, of course it is. But if you could only have one or the other, would you want to win a Europa League or would you want to win a league title?
That's a really tough one for me. I've got to be honest. I don't think there's a right answer to that. Because,
no, there's no right answer.
because the league's the bread and butter, and it's horrible when you don't win the league. But Europe gives you that sort of bragging rights as well. The fact that you've, to win one knockout tie would be great. To win 4 or 5 on the trot and get to a final would be absolutely brilliant. Not out with Celtic's capabilities, I think, especially not in the Europa League.
I would be comforted by the fact that Celtic will win the league title again, right?
Yeah.
Right? Celtic would win the Scottish Premiership title again. So I think, in my own head, I'd be erring on winning the Europa League and making yourself a big noise on that stage again. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of Celtic supporters would accept that. You saw the joy and the euphoria that getting to Seville created, and Celtic lost. Can you imagine they'd won? Still be talking about it. We'd be talking about it right now.
People would still be feeling it from 20 years on.
Well, I'm still feeling the fact that Celtic lost that. I'll never get over that.
My dad's the same.
It's like that bit in the airplane over Macho Grande. I'll never get over Macho Grande. You know what I mean? I've written about that before many times. So, what do you do in order to really be a competitive team on that stage? Then you have to at some point make a conscientious decision. And I was talking about Seville the other day. Seville made a conscientious decision. Of all the times that they've won the Europa League, they've never once challenged for the Spanish title, have they?
No, the closest they've been is probably about third or something.
So I think they made a conscientious decision to say, do you know what? This is where we attack. And, it's going to be harder for Celtic to attack you. This is the last kind of season that Celtic could possibly win the Europa League, assuming that they finish third in the Champions League group. I'd rather they go as far as they can in the Champions League. Last 16, last 8, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of that are so where's your priority this season coming up? Is it winning the treble again? Obviously, you want to win the title. That goes without saying. But if we're really being serious about Europe, then what do we do this season? Where's your focus? Is your focus on the league and Europe and the cups? Just and you just think to yourself, well, okay. But I mean, the chances of Celtic being in the latter stages of the cup competition are quite high anyway, because they're pretty, they're better than most teams. Well, every team is put in front of them domestically so far. So I'm just, I'm trying to think from a, because Rodgers isn't coming back to win the League Cup and the Scottish Cup, is he? He's coming back to win the title and he's come back to making an impact in Europe. So it doesn't really matter if he doesn't win the treble next season. Is that a lack of progress? Is that a failure? So we have to get real and say, where are our ambitions? Are our ambitions now being ratcheted up a notch? Because I think they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think every Celtic supporter now under Rodgers want to make an impact in Europe. because you can say what you like. I think the fact that Rangers have got to 2 European finals and Celtic reached Seville in 2003 irks a lot of Celtic supporters, and it should irk them, And
I think it's a failure on Celtic's part, I would say as well. I mean, I know Rangers have did well to get to 2 finals, but at the same time, Celtic should have won a knockout tie in that time.
Yeah, I think failure's a strong word because European finals don't come along that often, but especially for Celtic. But I think since 2003, that 20 years, and Rangers having got to 2 finals in that time, then shows you that it can be done.
Yeah.
That's what I'm alluding to. So it just depends on your focus and your priority. I'm like you. I always want to win the league title. Anything else is a bonus. But I always want Celtic to be as competitive as they can in Europe, and I don't see why they can't be a competitive force domestically and win a title and be a force in Europe as well. So there we go.
Yeah, I think I was meaning with regards to failure that Celtic hadn't won a knockout tie with regards to what Rangers had done in the.
That's fair enough.
And
right?
even their quarter-final appearances, I remember they put out by, I think it was Bayer Leverkusen at the start of 2020 or the second part of 2020. You see these events happening. You're like, you want Celtic to be doing the same. Celtic should be in the same, especially with the finances that Celtic have to spend to get players, the fans that they can bring in every second week at Celtic Park. You just want to see them push on and do better in Europe, because we've did it in group stages. In the group stages, we've had some really, really great results. You think Barcelona, you think even in the Europa League with Lazio, with results against Rennes, against Lille, etc. Celtic can do it. It's just I think a lot of it is luck of the draw as well with who you get in the knockouts. I mean, you can very easily get a Man City and then it's Cutlins. It's Cutlins, but
I accept that. But I'm just talking about. I don't think Celtic have been in a better position in terms of financial strength and domestic strength. And having a manager with a real pedigree, a real nous, tactical nous that can achieve. So now's the time to just turn your ambitions into reality. That's what I'm talking about. I think a competitive Celtic team, and certainly this one, you'll always be there in terms of winning the league title. You'll start off the favourites, and it's no reason why Celtic cannot win the league title again. And I'm assuming that there'll be players coming in and maybe one more leaving. That I think that's a level of acceptability for the Celtic supporters. Talking about one more star, and you can argue the toss who that's going to be. But if you turn around and you start weakening the side, and Abada goes, Hatate goes, Carter Vickers goes, something like that in the next few weeks, then all that ambition that you have, it's hot air, it's words, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to keep most of these players, if not all. Jota's gone for 25 million, great piece of business. If someone, and I said yesterday, if someone's head's out the door, their head's been turned, then they leave. Bottom line.
It's got to be.
You can't sanction everybody leaving, because Celtic are in a right good position at the moment. One of the, probably, arguably, the greatest position in their history in terms of financial strength and dominance, domestic dominance. So you have to now go and try and make or get your ambitions to fruition, and that's Europe. And we have to sort of make inroads in that, because if you're making inroads in Europe, I've said before, you will always challenge domestically for the title. I've not got a concern about that. Celtic have shown the past couple of years that they can beat everything that's put in front of them domestically. We'll wait to see how the new Rangers team will, how they'll shape up. But certainly Celtic's players, and if you're adding quality to that, Celtic will only get better and improve. So there you have it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just talking about that quality that we'll need in Europe next season, there's a gap in the team at this point in time. I would say Jota's goals and assists, they're away. I mean, that double digits for goals and assists. a very much along with Kyogo, I would say a very much a talismanic figure in that Celtic side. So who do we go for? Who do we move for next? Or do we have is the replacement already at Celtic in Maeda or Abada? I'm not so sure. I don't know if those two can put up the same numbers that Jota could. Maybe Abada can, but I don't think he's on the same level as Jota in terms of technical ability. Just before we get into maybe individual names, do you think that there's anybody in the team currently just now or coming back maybe from loan that could do the job that Jota did?
I think the one that most Celtic supporters would look to in the team right now is Haksabanovic. There's been flashes, but I don't know, has Haksabanovic, is he the guy to get those kind of numbers that Jota has? I'm looking at the fact that I'm a preference of Haksabanovic coming in on the left, coming in from the left. Most of his goals have been when he's come in from the left and bent on one with the right, isn't it?
Yep.
Certainly one against Ross County, which was a cracker, one against Hearts, which was a cracker.
Hearts and Hibs as well.
I want to see what Haksabanovic brings to the table, having had a pre-season, because he always looked to struggle, didn't he? He was always a great impact player, but then when he started, he wasn't, he looked a bit off it. So I'm not saying Haksabanovic will be Jota's replacement, but I think he's certainly a piece of the jigsaw puzzle that might slot in. But if not, then you will have to look at bringing in a left winger. Now, the one that excites you and excites me, and if you're using your City Group connections wisely, is Borges, isn't it? Young player who has smashed the boards in under-21s at Manchester City. But isn't that what our model is as well? Get them in young, hand them that first-team platform, and then see if they can thrive and become a star. Now, I think he fits that bill, doesn't he? He's a kind of prototype. Brendan Rodgers likes wingers, doesn't he? I give you Scott Sinclair and Paddy Roberts. Paddy Roberts, when he was in the team, was great. Got injured a lot. Scott Sinclair's first season was off the charts. He hit the ground running with his goal at Tynecastle, like hours after signing a deal, and enjoyed a terrific first season. So, Rodgers is going to play with wingers. He does have a million wingers, but are they going to provide what he wants? I would say Celtic do need a left winger, and Borges possibly is the one for me that fits that bill, Ryan. I know you like him as well. You're on that train, and we have to. If that's the way football's working, where you've got connections with various teams, and the City Group being one of Celtic's, then you have to exploit that and explore that, because you might unearth the next Jota in the shape of Borges, and I think they've got high hopes for Borges, haven't they? Well, why not give him that first-team platform? I know people say he's not played a first-team game. Well, give him the platform at Celtic and let him see if he's the real deal.
His numbers are absolutely frightening for Manchester City's under-21s team. Now, there have been good players that have came through that academy before. You look at, I think it's Lucas Nemecha that is just signed for Borussia Dortmund. He was on the books of Man City as well. Now, he's a £30 million player. Moved from, I think it was either Wolfsburg or Werder Bremen. I know it was a team playing green in Germany, so it was one of the two. But he moved for 30 million to Borussia Dortmund. So it shows that there's real quality in this academy. 24 matches last season in the Reserve League, or the Reserve League equivalent for the Premier League. 24 matches, 21 goals, 10 assists. And the Football League trophy, they obviously, the teams in England put their B teams or their under-21s team into the Challenge Trophy. 3 matches, 4 goals, 1 assist. For the under-19s, he also played last season. He's played quite a lot of games, actually. 6 matches, 4 goals. So it seems that whenever this guy plays, he's involved. Yeah. He knows where the goal is.
Yeah. And also as well, not ruling out Tilio, but obviously Tilio's a right winger. But having spoken to John Maisano, he said he can play on the left as well. And you don't know, after a while, you'll be like, what foot does this guy kick with? So I'm excited to see him. But what I do know is the manager wants wingers. Maybe not the 4-3-3 system that Ange Postecoglou played, but Brendan Rodgers likes, his wingers to contribute both goals and assists, which Jota did. So there is a gaping hole there. Is Haksabanovic the answer to Jota? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying he is. I want to see what he's like, having had a full pre-season. There are glimpses from Haksabanovic that tell me there's a player there, might be worth persevering with, but again, might have to be content with being an impact player again, coming on and doing some damage, but he might look a different type of player after a full pre-season. We'll need to see, but I still think probably need a left winger to replace Jota. Pete McShee, no Tony, never in a million years. It's all about opinions, Pete. That's fine. I think Haksabanovic has got some skills in his locker, some tricks, and I just want to know what he's like after a pre-season, because there are times when I watched him and I thought he looked very, very unfit.
I agree. I was going to make the same point.
Especially when he started. After about 50 minutes, an hour, he was breathing out the proverbial, as they say. So I just want to see what he's like, having got himself up to some kind of fitness speed. Yet he looked great in half an hour cameos, didn't he? So we'll see. I'm not saying he's the answer, but I think he could be one of the answers. But I still think we need a left winger to replace Jota. Borges has been like, I quite like that. The thought of that, because I think that's a stage and a platform that any young thruster could shine.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Leicester will be interested in him as well with that link with Enzo Maresca.
Sure, yeah.
Enzo Maresca would have worked with him, and maybe actually wouldn't have worked with him directly, but he'll have known all about him in scouting reports and the like. He's definitely a player that gets really good numbers whenever he plays football. The only, I think, sort of asterisk next to his name would be the fact he's not made a senior appearance yet in his career. So there's always that doubt that if he can replicate that in the senior game. But what better place to start than at Celtic? if you can get a guy in with that sort of prestige, with that, he's playing for the Portugal. I think it's the under-19s that he's playing for as well. So it's clear that his international prospects are pretty good as well. Much like what Jota was one of Portugal's best ever sort of youth players, so he's definitely coming from good stock, that's for sure. But what I would say,
I think they should ask the question, Ryan.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
The links are there with the City group, so see how he feels about it, and if it's a goal, then I think they should possibly try and make that happen.
You see, this is where the loan with an option to buy could help, because I wouldn't want, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't want Celtic paying 10 million for a guy that hasn't played a professional game yet. I would take the loan with an option to buy, maybe not an obligation to buy, an option to buy, like a fee that's been agreed if he does set the league on fire, which is what would be expected of him if he came in, because his numbers are incredible for the B team equivalent of Manchester City. For me, if I was dealing with the finances, I'd say loan with an option at 10 million to buy. If he's that good, then you spend it on him the next season. That also means that you can spend in other areas that need improving as well, like maybe a goalkeeper, the midfielder that we talked about. Maybe Celtic can fork out 9-10 million in that position, and then they know that they're going to spend that the season after on that left wing position. There's a cliche that always goes about, but you've got to know your best 11. I think those days have passed now. I think different teams for different games. This is where Haksabanovic might not be a starter every week, but he'll be there and he'll be available. Celtic will be in four competitions, maybe even 5 next season. They need to have players that can come in and out of the team and do a job when necessary, because that, even if you are playing on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday can still be quite a quick turnaround for a player, 3-4 days. You need players that can come in off the bench.
I will flip that and say then you need to know your best 16.
It's fair. I would agree with that. Yeah, I think it is a 16-man game. So, I know you can put 11 men on the park, but you need 16 players you can rely on game in, game out.
You need to have a best 16, don't you? So that the 5 guys that are coming on the duration of a football match are making that impact, which I think was the kind of road that Ange was traversing, wasn't he? Where everybody that came on would make a difference. So I think it's gone beyond an 11-man game or team game, hasn't it? It's a best 16. 16 players max will feature on any given match. So you're thrown on somebody to do something, to be as oven ready as you can, regardless if you're not turning to them to start a game, then they've got to be ready. And one thing I will say about Postecoglou, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, was Doesn't matter if you're getting 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. You're on there to make an impact. You're getting valuable game time and minutes. So go and make the most of that opportunity that you get, however long or short the minutes are. That's the whole point. You're, by virtue of the fact you're in the Celtic first team, you are contributing. So go and contribute. So I think, expand that, say, got to know your best 16. And I think at this moment in time, Celtic have a strong pool of players, but we add quality and enhance that, then we're only going to get stronger and better. But there are a number of positions that you probably would like to see strengthened. Goalkeeper, left wing, possibly left back, midfielder. Yeah, midfield, and then you're okay for centre forwards, I guess. But I don't think anybody would be averse to seeing another striker coming in as well. So yeah, and I know O plays part this season too, but you're not displacing Kyogo, are you?
No.
At this moment in time. So, and lots of people in the comments mention a goalkeeper. Yeah, a goalkeeper, and then also as well, we spoke about this off air before we come on. Elyounoussi, you said, I'm just going to put my cards on the table. I don't want Elyounoussi back. I think that would be a step back. I thought he blew very hot and cold, very inconsistent when he was at Celtic. And Elyounoussi not for me. So if Celtic want to do that and they bring him back, I'll support them. Obviously, I will. But at this minute in time, not for me. Elyounoussi, I think that would be a kind of step back in the wrong direction. So I'm more excited about people like Borges, somebody like that really would possibly get me up off my seat. So that's just my thoughts. I know you're a big Elyounoussi fan, aren't you?
Elyounoussi reminds me a lot of Haksabanovic in a way that he's not very. He's not the paciest.
Haksabanovic in the team. I don't know if we do.
I don't know how Haksabanovic will feel about that. I feel Haksabanovic is younger. He's also would be Elyounoussi would be a player as well, because considering he doesn't have a club at this moment in time. I think a lot of people wouldn't accept Elyounoussi if he was the Jota replacement, because that would just indicate that Celtic weren't willing to pay. They've got a £19 million profit on Jota, or that's the amount that they brought in, and then they replaced them for free transfer. It's all about the optics, and the optics that just wouldn't look good at all.
That would strike me as a lack of ambition, then, Ryan.
Yeah, I get that. But what I would say, if he was the second option, I wouldn't be against that. But if he was then again, he's at the age of 28 that he'll be expecting to play games. He won't want to sit on the bench. He'll want to be playing a majority of games across the season. So if he was first choice, I wouldn't want it. But if he was second choice, wanting to come in and out of the team, then I wouldn't be as against it as I would be if he was first choice. But it's just a game of opinions. I know he did score quite a few goals when he was at Celtic. Yes, he was working under Neil Lennon as well. He would be playing under undoubtedly a better manager than Brendan Rodgers that would maybe get more out of him the second time around. But yeah, it's a mixed one, isn't it? It's not going to be one that will enamour all the fans, or maybe not even enamour the majority of fans. But at the same time, he has scored goals for us. He's always spoke of Celtic fondly, and if Celtic were in a desperate situation, I think it'd be a good signing. But I think now, due to the parameter or the position that Celtic are in, the position of strength, if Celtic were to go back in for Elyounoussi as a first choice, then I think it would look quite weak, personally.
Yeah, I just think Celtic's ambition lie higher than that, do they not? Or they certainly should. So I'm excited about names that they've been linked with. Elyounoussi doesn't excite me, So I'm being upfront and honest as I can about that. Anybody they bring in, of course, they'll get the support, but he's had his chance, and I just think we should be looking elsewhere. And there's been some names, and you don't want to just sort of cling on to every name that's been linked, because they'll be linked with all sorts of names. But the names that have been linked, certainly, they excite you, don't they? Not saying that they'll all come to the club, but they excite you because they strike you as ambitious, and I'm just keen to see what Celtic actually do when they do loosen the purse strings, what Brendan's thoughts are on the matter. So yeah, I trust them implicitly to do the right thing and to bring in the right players for Celtic at the right kind of value. So yeah, Pete McGee, yesterday's men are just that, yesterday's men. And that's the way I feel
I
about
get that.
El Yunusi, you know. So I want us to move forward, be you know, be the big club that I'm always saying, and acting like a big club, and be ambitious. And that ambition certainly stretches beyond Scottish borders. I want them to go into Europe and become that kind of green and white machine that was kind of synonymous during the Martin O'Neill era. If they can get that kind of vibe back, European nights were brilliant back then. European nights are always good at Celtic Park, but there was something special about those because teams were coming and they just weren't sure. Well, they were sure of something. They weren't going to win. You know what I mean? So that's the bottom
Fortress.
line. Yeah, that can. I mean, I hesitate to use that word, but Parkhead was one of the most spellbinding arenas in Europe, which is why everybody spoke about it in glowing terms. They were only playing just 11 men. They were playing 60,000 people, and when it was rocking like that, it was it was primal. Oh,
Yeah.
at times, it was brilliant, and Celtic got a lot of success through that. Obviously, got to the UEFA Cup final. So if the Celtic can get anything remotely resembling that, then it would be great. But at this moment in time, they have a chance because I think the nucleus of a right good teams there. But we just now need to add that quality that Martin O'Neill brought in, and the kind of Chris Suttons and Lennons and Hartsons. He already had Larson, So if we can manage to do that, get those kind of players who will make that impact in that arena, especially in Europe, and they'll do it domestically anyway because that'll become second nature to them. But buy players that are going to continue your dominance and also take you that next step in Europe and get you that knockout tie result, or just improve your record on that stage. Because there's been nothing to write home about. I think every Celtic supporter craves that, and there is no better place or better stadium in European football when Celtic Park is rocking and they're claiming a scalp or two, and Celtic have done that in the past. And if there is better places, then somebody needs to show me them because it's a wonderful, wonderful place, an arena to play your football. And I want people to be talking about it in glowing terms, having not had a result. I don't want them to be given as pats in the back for the atmosphere they've created, having waltzed off with a 2-0 or a 3-0 win or any kind of win. I want them to say that was hostile, it was intimidating, but it was one of the best atmospheres they'd played in, and no wonder they didn't get a result. I'm fed up with the platitudes. Parkhead's no for tourists. It's a serious football venue. Let's get back to that and make that kind of impact, because that's what I want to see. And I think Brendan Rodgers does in this team with that stardust that you bring in with the 2, 3, 4 players that you maybe bring in could help them on the way to achieving the ambitions. Talk's cheap. I always say that, but actions, isn't it? So let's turn that ambition into a reality.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. I know we've been talking a lot about left wingers today, but it seems as if, judging by reports that just came out in the past 10 minutes, that Celtic are about to bring in another right winger to the club. It seems as if Yang Hyun-jun is going to get what he wants with regards to a move to Celtic. It looks as if he will be moving in the summer. Chosun.com, a South Korean outlet, are talking about there's been a breakthrough in talks between the player and his club, and it looks as if the right winger, the 21-year-old right winger from Gangwon, is going to make the move to Celtic in the summer. Just quickly, Tony, what's your opinions on this?
Well, obviously the boy's keen to come, and I'm all for that. And if Celtic clearly want him, then bring him in. So I'm connecting dots here. does that mean the end of the line for someone like Abada?
I think so. I think with Tillio and Yang in there, you don't have three right wingers.
So, you're not converting one of them into a left winger, are you?
Nah,
I mean,
unless
Marco
Tillio's...
Tillio can be versatile, yeah. So, but I always try and connect dots and join lines. So, the Lila Abada thing's not going away, is it?
Nah, Sporting Lisbon,
One day
Ajax.
Sporting Lisbon, Ajax, that kind of thing. So, pick a club, any club, linking with Lila Abada. It's been something that's been rumbling on in the background for a long, long time. So, with regards to Yang, delighted that the boy's finally getting what he wants. He's done well to force that through and just went public with it, didn't he? Lots of players might have sat there tight and said nothing and sulked. He's just said, nope, I want to go there. Please don't stop me from achieving my dream. So I think he's looked to O and thought, I want a piece of that. That's what I want
did the same.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they forced, their hand. And I think there was an air of inevitability about it. Once they start that going down that line, teams don't want an unhappy player, do they? So if that's the case, then fine. But I'm just looking what it means to Celtic now in terms of squad depth and squad numbers. And there's just too much fuel on the flames for me in terms of Abada. It's been rumbling on for a while. Started with agent talks way back early last season, wasn't it? That somebody slipped that he wasn't signing a new deal, or
it was the same time as Giacomakis. I remember.
Yeah, so there was that kind of dual threat that Giacomakis was going to leave and Abada was going to leave. So I'm just trying to project further. If Yang comes in, then does that mean the end of the road for Abada? I guess that's a topic for another day. But it's fair play to the boy for forcing that through. He seems very keen to come, so here's hoping that he can make the impact that he wants, having having jumped about and stomped around, wanting his dream move.
Stamped his feet and crossed his arms. Give me what I want.
Yeah.
As long as that behaviour isn't replicated at Celtic, then I'm quite happy with that. But then it is a bigger move for him from Gangwon to Celtic.
In the same way that Jota's move, it's a kind of similar situation for somebody like Yang, isn't it? It probably is life-changing money for him and a big deal, life-changing deal for him and his family. So, good on him. And we'll wait to see if Celtic confirm that signing. But if they do, then I think he'll be welcomed like every other player. But I think that's a plethora of right wingers that something has to give there, then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it will happen. I think Gangwon understand now where the player's head is at, and they know that they can't have an unhappy player, especially when they're facing relegation this season in the K1 league. So I think for all parties, it's best if he moves on. He does remind me, but you see so much of YouTube clips, you can only get a certain. I mean, it's a certain eye test. It's only a slight eye test because you need to see the player in person to fully gauge what sort of player they are. He does remind me a lot of Abada. The similarities are quite similar to the two. Not had a great season this season, but last season he really came alive. But I'm sure we'll talk about him over the coming days as this story materialises. But we just wanted to report this story as it was coming out because these things happen. These things always happen. It seems as we're on the briefing. But 58, 59 minutes into a briefing. That's flown by. I don't know about you.
It always does. You're talking about Celtic, isn't it? But
yeah, and there's plenty to talk about. It's a period of change, but an exciting period of change. Still buzzing off of Kyogo's contract extension, but I think we're realistic about what the club can achieve, both with transfers and European-wise. But you can always dream, can't you?
Yeah, of course. You're looking at the eternal dreamer, aren't you?
I think you're looking at the two of us, the two biggest dreamers in Glasgow.
Eternal optimist for Celtic, always. Never say never on any kind of ambition for the club. But yeah, I'm a realist, but I'm also a humorist with it as well. But hey, what a dare to dream, of course. That's the thing, isn't it?
Thank you to everybody that's commented. Sorry we couldn't get through a lot of comments today. We had a lot to talk about with regards to different topics that were coming up, both during the podcast and discussed beforehand. Just quickly, if you want to hear more from us on a daily basis and maybe in written form as well, then visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll get articles from myself, from Tony, from Aidan, from the rest of the Celtic Way team. We've got loads of articles every day. I don't know if you want to sort of talk about your latest piece, Tony, before we go.
What was my latest piece? Took a memory blank there.
It was the Jota.
Oh, the
moments.
Jota, yeah, there was a 5 moments, wasn't it? And Jota, that's on the website. Yeah, you can have a look at that. Whenever someone leaves, we always kind of say they go out in a high. So I've picked 5 Jota moments, all subjective, of course. You can agree or disagree, but the brazen header's in there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The goal, the salute goal, the iconic celebration goal, and also they're not all goals. His passes in there to Kyogo for the Ferencvaros game, which I absolutely adored. I thought it was a brilliant pass. So yeah, you can have a wee look at that and pick your own moments. But yeah, it's a sign of getting old, that, Ryan, isn't it? You forget what you've actually written, you know what I mean? So
I'm still forgetting I'm 25, to be fair, so I can. And then once you've read Tony's piece, you can read my piece on Kyogo. Once you're sad about Jota, then you can pick yourself up a bit and read about Kyogo, obviously with his contract extension. You've got to have the lows and then the highs. You've got to end on a high. Kyogo's here to stay, and I think a lot of Celtic fans are very, very happy, or the vast majority. I'd like to meet a Celtic fan that isn't happy about our Japanese talisman staying at the club. But I think that is where we'll end off with the stream today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been a bit of a longer one. We've had plenty to talk about. Thank you, Tony, for joining me, as always.
Pleasure. I always enjoy it. We're here to stay. That might please some of you, it might not please others, but not a lot we can do about it. But Zig and Zag will always be here through the summer, so there you go. All right.
That's it, absolutely. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you the same time tomorrow for another Celtic briefing. But thank you very much and have a good day.